Chris McSwain, co-founder of the McSwain Group. Welcome to Juicing with Gary.
Hey, thanks, Gary.
Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
First, we're going to make a juice.
All right.
All right, now do you like juice, Chris?
Oh, all the time.
All the time. Are you a professional juicer?
No, I wouldn't give me that credit.
All right, well listen, I make a juice special for every one of my guests. And I name them. You know what I've named this one?
What is it?
Sunshine.
All right.
Because you're my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Whatever you do, friend, don't go away from me, because we're best friends forever again. Chris, I'm going to ask you to start to cut up some of these vegetables. Watch the knives. We've got beautiful red apples. We've got some luscious tomatoes that we're going to cut in. All right. You got to have the cucumber.
Okay.
Right? High in you like cucumbers, Chris?
Yeah. Ready?
You ready to juice?
Yep.
All right, watch your finger there. Okay.
Okay,
good.
got enough?
So we're going to start with the apples, okay? So let's get juicing. Let's get juicy. Just put them down in there, and I'll just crush them for you. And now let's put some tomatoes in on that. Can you grab two of the big beets? Okay. This adds such a great flavor to this. Oh, let's put the beet down in there. That's it, right down in there. All right, let's get some beautiful carrots down in there, and you can just stick them right in whole. They just, oh yeah. And then finally, mint. Look at how it separates. Look at the colors. How it always comes off. All right. That's part of the plan. It's part of the mystery around this.
Oh, sure.
All right, now pour us a nice glass of juice.
All right, you got it.
All right, and we've used all the mint, otherwise we put it like a mint julep. Right? We just had the Kentucky Derby, right? So we'll put that on there. And you have to have your official stir. This is the official stir of Juicing with Gary.
Okay.
Okay, that said, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Gary.
My honor. Oh, one of the best yet. Feel that beat?
I can
Right?
feel it.
You got the beat? Well, Chris, thanks again for being here today. Welcome to Health.
Thank you.
So everybody has a story, Chris. And I have the great privilege of knowing you for a long time. We're dear friends. We've done a lot of work together. And that's why it's so important to have you here, and it's such an honor for me. But not everybody does. So tell us your story.
Oh, thank you, Gary. I appreciate your kind words. My background is a bit unusual for a benefits professional. Most people would know me as a benefits guy. But my roots actually go all the way back to science. I have a couple of degrees in chemistry and was a chemist actually in the pharmaceutical industry for several years and the ag chem business. And then I made a shift into human resources. I wanted to go into an area of the company that I felt I got a better picture of the whole company, not just one part of it. And I went into that role and was so fortunate to be mentored by very seasoned HR professionals, and they gave me quite a tour of duty. So I got exposed to all the different functional areas of human resources. And then they told me something I didn't expect. And they said, if you want to be good, you have to leave. And I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, if you stay here, you'll only know how we do it. Based on the change you'd like to make in the world, you've got to get out and see how others do it. So that allowed me to leave and start a journey of working at a lot of different companies in different industries. If you look at my resume, it probably looks like I can't keep a job, but I promise you that there's a good reason behind every change. But I'd pick up my employment experience at SCANA. That's where the work that we were doing really began to fall onto the national scene. And I should say, early on is that all the credit for the stories I'm going to tell you goes to the teams that I've been honored and privileged to work with. This is really more of their story and accomplishments, but I'm just grateful to have been a part of it with them. At SCANA, people didn't expect change out of a 230-year-old utility in South Carolina, but what we did was unprecedented. We put in a company pharmacy and purchased directly through a group purchasing organization from a wholesaler. Those medications came in every day on a hand truck. We used our intra-company mail carriers to deliver the medications out to our 230 work locations. I got the approval from the boards of pharmacy in the 3 states that we operated in. The pharmacists and all the techs were our employees. Our volume was so high we had to get a robot, and the employees called it Dr. Phil. And our clinical pharmacist won the Pharmacist of the Year that year because we had him out on the road talking to people, listening to them, understanding what's going on in their life. Now that pharmacy was tightly integrated into a on-site well-being and EAP services, and we had tremendous metrics and data that we measured all of the work that we did because we wanted integrated care delivery for our employees, their families, and our retirees. And our trend in the 4.5 years I was there was either flat or negative, and for 3 years we didn't even raise premiums for the employees. And then after 4.5 years, I was hired by Whirlpool to run global benefits, and just honored to be a part of that organization, as with SCANA. At SCANA, we had national awards and a lot of press nationally that wasn't, the benefits function at all these companies weren't used to getting a lot of press, so it was a bit of a stretch for everybody. We had awards at Whirlpool, grateful for those, and at Walmart. I was there 4 years, and my wife and I made a personal decision to leave and return to South Carolina. I had left the South Carolina area, our home, if you will, for many years, traveling to do the things that you just heard me describe. And we both saw our mother's health, but both of which live on the coast about 15 minutes from each other. We saw their health changing from great to good, and it was important to us to return and be able to share ourselves with them and receive the benefit. And we've been richly rewarded for doing so at that time of their life. And they're both doing great, everybody's okay, but it's been 4 years, and we're just so thankful to have had that opportunity. Now, when I left Walmart, I thought I was semi or retiring, and my friends and now my wife have called it a failed retirement, so I didn't stay inactive very long.
People that are like you, as far as I'm concerned, who now are so passionate, so committed to this work, especially now what you're doing through these new and emerging organizations, there's generally a root cause. Mm-hmm. Something makes us really excited or want to dive into this work. So what's your root cause? In April, 27 years ago, I was home, just got home from work. My wife was there. The phone rings, and it's a neighbor to my mom and dad, and said, "Your dad's had a heart attack." And quickly getting our things together. Before I could get out the house, I had another call, and it said, "He's gone." So I lost my dad 27 years ago, and that's a big part of my life. He was just taken way too soon, and he had some lifestyle issues. I mean, I wasn't near as smart then as I am now. He used tobacco. And I've often wondered, what is it that I could have done if I'd have known it that might have kept him from using tobacco and not eating as well as he should, that caused the heart disease that eventually took his life. And that's been a real driving force for me. As I've gone to these employers, you may have noticed they've gotten bigger as I've gotten along in my career, and my goal and passion is to make a difference at scale. Let's talk about some of your new work that you're doing now. I'd love to learn more about TinRule and learn about the organization and how you see that impacting health as we move forward.
I'm so excited to tell you about the TinRule product. In all my travels, and you now know a few of them, I've never seen anything like it. Rarely do you have anything that is a bit of a surprise. Well, when I left Walmart, I was introduced to a group of people that asked me to look at a few companies. TinRule was one of them. And as I began to understand the science behind this technology, I was totally blown away. The science goes back 40 years to a person named Dr. William Bryant. And this gentleman trained 2 people in this brain science. And those 2 people trained a very limited number of individuals, one of which is Gary Morris, the founder of TinRule. Now, what Gary has done in his career as a clinician and as a business consultant is he's taken the brain science research that goes all the way back to that period and has created a metric that has completely mapped the brain's thinking algorithms at the root source into performance thinking algorithms. literally, how does the brain think? How do you think? How do I think? At the root source. If you think of competencies, you might consider this the DNA of competencies. And what we have done at 10 Rule is that we have taken that mapping and turned it into a performance metric that has 12 performance drivers. And those 12 performance drivers have been validated through clinical research. They have been validated through independent review and research. They are patented, which is very exciting. And they are EEOC compliant. All of this work is completely capable of being scaled without any compliance issues. These 12 performance drivers fall into 3 performance categories. The first is self-motivation. Think about ambition, confidence, systematic. Then the second group is fear or stress motivation. And those would be like anxiety, self-defeat, self-consciousness. Think of that as the brakes. Then the third is the drive scale. And that would be viewed as like the tachometer. That tells you how fast you're thinking. The 10 Rule assessment takes 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, we can understand exactly what your performance thinking profile is on each one of these 12 drivers. Now, measuring is just one part of this, and in my mind, not necessarily the most important. Let me explain. Not only can 10 Rule measure performance thinking at the root source, but it can also remediate performance in any one of those 12 drivers. So if any one of your 12 drivers shows the need for attention, further work, or development, the online training is already present and can be completed either with online or personal coaching in 4 to 6 weeks. So 1 hour, once a week for 4 to 6 weeks, and we can literally change the way you think in any one of these 12 performance drivers. We know that people with diabetes, and Jerry, I give you the full credit. You're the one who walked me through this 20 years ago. Somebody with diabetes, we throw a lot of resources at that. Well, let's unpack that person to get to what's really driving the problem. So that person has diabetes. Maybe that's because they're overweight, because they haven't eaten very well. They have an eating disorder. Well, they have an eating disorder because they're depressed. They're depressed because they are dealing with high levels of stress. They're dealing with high levels of stress because their interpersonal skills won't let them relate very well with others. So that individual, if you're applying innovations down here around the symptoms, then you're missing the root cause. So I'll bring it home. For my dad, I've searched for something that I could have used to understand what I could have done to help avoid his situation. And I believe 10 Rule does that. I'm curious, if he was here, what would his performance drivers look like that might have kept him with coaching and development from wanting to use tobacco or not eating the right types of food. So 10 Rule has the ability to rapidly change and accelerate the human performance of any individual. And what's really great about this, to me, is that it's all personalized. So your profile is going to be different than mine. Your needs will be different than mine. And the coaching, both online and personal coaching that's available, is suited just for you. So you may be an individual that's dealing with questions like, why am I not succeeding at work? How come I don't seem to get along with people? Why am I on this medication for depression? And what we find in the clinical research that's been completed over 15 years is that when you can help change the way those people think in very specific drivers, then you can change the outcomes along that whole continuum. The way we think impacts the way we feel, which impacts and drives what we do. So what we're doing is changing an individual's thinking at the root source, which will change how you feel about yourself and everything else, and which ultimately changes the outcomes that you're experiencing. And I know what it's like to lose a loved one, so early in your life. And if we could do something that would keep more Charlies around to prevent what I've experienced and my brother and mother have experienced, that would be a victory worth having.
You've done amazing work in this industry, Chris, and your legacy, just like your dad's, will continue to live on and on. We're not done yet, brother.
Well, thank you, Gary. I
Right? We
appreciate
got a long
that.
way to go.
Well, we've got
So-
a lot
and
to
I
do.
want you to drink a lot of juice to get you there.
Hey, you got it.
Listen,
Let's start right now.
Well, on behalf of the team from Health, thanks for being here again. Thanks for sharing your story. It's all important, and just a real, true blessing to have you here. So
Thank you. It's
thank
all
my
mine.
friends.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Gary. Thanks to everybody at Health.